Internet now has become the #1 place for the sale of children for sex.
People under the impression, that's a runaway kid. They don't see what I see.
They said that she's just a teenager who's going through some personal issues.
Her body looks like she could be prepubescent.
We were expected to bring back at least $500. If you didn't, then that's when he would get violent.
I call them the forgotten children. How are you?
Joe Mazzilli is a veteran New York City cop. He set up the Pimp Squad in the late 1970s, and he's been tracking down pimps and gangs ever since. The sale of their victims for sex is the third largest and fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world.
Right, this is your daughter, right?
Destiny, yes.
Retirement hasn't slowed him down. His successful private investigation firm allows him to run the Runaway Squad, rescuing missing children at the request of parents pro bono.
This girl's missing, yeah.
Mazzilli's current case is missing 14-year-old Destiny Butler.
She's very talented, very smart, very intelligent, but she's easily manipulated.
He says the scenario is all too familiar.
Like in this particular case, it appears to be at this particular point, that she was lured away,
A teenager from a broken home or rough neighborhood falling victim to a predator.
There was text going back and forth from this child, naked photos. From the get-go was, purely a case of exploitation.
By exploitation, Mazzilli's referring to sex trafficking, a crime most people associate with foreign women and girls. But pimps and criminal gangs across America are increasingly targeting runaways from right here in the U.S., typically teenagers from disadvantaged backgrounds who they force into prostitution. The FBI says that around 300,000 children could be at risk.
These are not faraway kids in faraway lands. These are our kids on our street corners, our truck stops, our motels, our casinos. These are America's children.
When they get on the street, these kids, it can be a matter of days before they're exploited. And most of the time it is days, especially young girls.
The amount of kids that we know to be victimized is increasing.
Stacey Sheehan runs the Case Analysis Division at the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, an agency set up by Congress that works with the Department of Justice and the FBI to track endangered runaways across the country.
In 2013, 1 out of 7 endangered runaways that were reported to the National Center were also being victimized through sex trafficking.
800,000 children go missing across America every year. With the rise of the internet as an advertising platform and a recruitment tool for pimps and gangs, the number of these children at risk from sex trafficking crimes is increasing.
Which one was Destiny's room? Can you see it from here?
Destiny Butler went missing almost a year ago from her home in Rosedale, Queens. Inga Bearden is a single mom of several kids.
I waited, and then I called 911.
How many police officers came?
Between 6 to 10.
And it would have been from this precinct?
The 105th.
105.
Yeah.
Did they take flyers out?
No, they just searched the house, made sure, I guess, we weren't hiding her in the house, and then that was it.
She contacted Mazzilli because she said the police have not been helpful, including the detective from the NYPD's Missing Persons Unit assigned to Destiny's case.
He hasn't been returning any phone calls. Communication with him is at a standstill.
Many parents of sex trafficking victims we spoke to complained about a lack of police support, but Mazzilli says it's often not the officer's fault.
Police departments across the country can't take on all these. They can take these cases on, but how much attention can they give each one when so many people are missing?
We have seen a problem with law enforcement. We've seen a problem where law enforcement is criminalizing many of these victims.
Lauren Hirsch was a prosecutor at the Brooklyn DA's office for more than 8 years. She now helps to run an anti-sex trafficking NGO and helped launch a high-profile campaign called the New Abolitionists.
Sex trafficking is one of the most violent felonies out there, and yet the law recognizes it as a non-violent felony.
Very few victims prosecute their exploiters because the law doesn't protect them. In fact, it's more likely to prosecute them.
If a person, let's say a man, has sex with a child and he commits statutory rape, he receives a higher penalty than if that same person has sex with that same child and yet hands her a $20 bill.
Some of it happens kind of right underneath the train track.
I've had girls who've told me that they've been exploited in this hotel. We have a lot of work to do, and it's not just going after those traffickers and buyers, but it's making sure that locations like this one are held accountable as well.
Fear is another reason why victims don't prosecute their abusers, since sex trafficking and gang violence are often connected, as one mother described to us.
And it's tied to a lot of gang activity. You know, a lot of those people don't care if they kill people. My hands are tied.
She turned to Mazzilli 3 years ago after her daughter had been missing for almost 6 months and police couldn't find her.
That was really hard. And just knowing that I couldn't protect her, that was even harder. I don't think they realize that teenagers who run away are at higher risk, and these predators know that.
As we sat with mother and daughter, the girl chose not to show her face on camera. She had been forced into prostitution at age 15 by the Bloods, a notoriously violent gang.
It was what he called, like, introducing me to the game, basically into prostitution and into the Bloods.
She described how her pimp took her to so-called clubs that were made for prostitution.
Basically, you dance a little bit, whatever. You go in the back, do what you need to do, come back out, and it's just like, that was the order.
How many of these places? All in Brooklyn?
There's a lot in Brooklyn. A couple were in Manhattan.
The problem did not go away. In my opinion, it's gotten worse. And it's became more difficult to track because everything's via the internet. Basically, the police, the public don't have a visual on it. They're no longer seeing the hooker in the street. But the same thing is going on.
Predators use the internet to lure their victims. Sometimes gangs will move them around a given city, around a state, and even across state borders.
As far as I'm concerned, they need to tweak the laws a little bit to go after them for racketeering.
House members hope to pass a collection of 12 anti-trafficking bills. They would address and criminalize the advertising of sex trafficking and put in place services that would help to rehabilitate victims.
If you buy or sell an individual like a commodity, the law is coming after you.
I'm here to find a kid. So you're in my way, you got a problem.
Do you think you'll find destiny?
Yeah, I definitely think you'll find destiny. I think this is the highlight of my career. And you know, what's better than finding a missing kid, really?
This is how to get in shape fast.
If you want to drop this, start eating more of these.
A nationwide operation led by the FBI rescued more than 200 victims of sex trafficking, including more than 50 underage victims. They also found another 50 children who'd been reported missing. The initiative, dubbed Operation Cross Country, also led to the arrest of 6 alleged human traffickers. The annual operation is in its 13th year and showcases the partnership between federal and local law enforcement agencies across the nation, all in an effort to track down trafficking victims. Joining us now to talk about the initiative is NewsNation national security analyst and former CIA officer Tracy Walder. Hey, Tracy, good morning.
Good morning, Brooke.
So again, as we said, this operation is an annual one, a difficult one, no doubt. What goes into the investigation side of this?
So as you mentioned before, the really critical piece is the joining of local law enforcement as well as federal law enforcement, because the reality is, yes, many of this trafficking is occurring online, and the FBI has a vast amount of resources to help with that. But local law enforcement is on the ground, and they have contact with these human assets and are able to then share that information and pass it to the federal law enforcement. So really what it starts with are contacts on the ground. From there, it goes to the FBI, as well as the FBI using the assistance for the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children. They are also critical in this effort as well because of the funding that they have.
Yeah, I think in listening to the details about this case, more than 100 children in just this one operation. Again, it happens every year. And there's a need for this to continue happening every year, which is just so alarming. How do these young kids even get in this position in the first place?
It's really unfortunate. About 300,000 children are trafficked every year across the world, quite frankly. And the United States only accounts for about 5.1% of those children that are trafficked. And really, a lot of these children, some of them do come from marginalized communities, but others do not. And what's really important about operations like this that have gone on for nearly 2 decades is, yes, it's obviously critical that we are taking these people off of the streets and reuniting these children back with their families, but we're also raising public awareness and providing a victim-centered approach to these children to give them the tools that they need to heal from what they have been through, which is horrific.
Yeah, we've been playing some clips too from the recent box office smash hit, Sound of Freedom. It's really brought the issue of human trafficking into the spotlight. Do you think that, people are really talking about this more?
It's interesting. Yes and no. What seems to follow a lot of these large scale operations when we're taking down these large human trafficking rings or child trafficking rings is we start to see members of the community who are very much ingrained in the community or popular within the community are sometimes arrested as a result of these things. A lot of times you'll see these operations and then in very quick succession, you'll see members of the community being arrested. And that is really starting to garner public attention towards this issue. And so I'm hoping as a result, things will change. But it's the public awareness around this that I think is so critical.
And do you think that we're doing enough to prevent this from happening in the first place?
Yes and no. I think from a law enforcement perspective, yes, I think operations like Operation Cross Country are obviously critical in taking down these criminals. But what I think the FBI has done more of, I was at the FBI when this first started, is this victim-centered approach that I talked about before. They bring in the FBI's Victim Services Division, and they do forensic interviews that do not traumatize these children any farther and provide them with services to help them and not recreate this cycle. And so I think that is the critical piece that was perhaps missing in the inception of this program that's there now.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnation now.